Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Legendary Leaders. I am your host, Katrina Jameson. I am the founder of Legend Leaders, where we arm business leaders with the strategies they need to become legends, which means they live life on their terms. I'm excited as always to have you with me today. We are kicking off the month of July, and in the entire month of July, we are focusing on financials. Now you may be thinking, why in the heck are we focused on financials, Katrina? I focus on financials all of the time. And I hear you, but I'm focusing on financials in the month of July because we are halfway through 2021. Can you believe it? We're halfway through. So I want to talk about hitting financial targets. So we're going to spend the whole month talking about how to create targets. What does it look like? Why do we run away from creating financial targets sometimes, or even measuring to targets as business owners? What does that look like? So, kicking off the very first Wednesday episode of July, I want to talk about how you have delivered for the first half of the year. Now, if you've created a financial budget, which I hope that you have, then you know what I'm talking about. You should be sitting down at the end of every month. Actually, you should be sitting down throughout the month, but definitely at the end of the month, beginning of the next month, looking at how you performed for the month, and then taking a look and determining how you performed for the quarter. And then naturally, now we're halfway through the year. And so I want you to look at the additive performance of Q1 and Q2, these first 6 months of the year. How'd you do? And if you listen to me through 2020, if you are in the private Facebook group for Legend Leaders, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I push you regularly to look at your financial performance. And the reason why is because you're running a business. That's the whole point. You're running a business. So if you were just playing around and you had a hobby, I wouldn't have to worry about your financials. But you're actually trying to make money, which means we have to understand, are we making money? How are we performing, right? So here's what I want you to look at. I want you to sit down and look at your financials. I want you to sit down and look at your customer service, your performance to your service levels. I want you to look at your personal KPIs or the KPIs you've created for your team. If you have a team, I want you to look at all the metrics, okay? And I want you to do a gut check. You know, a good business leader doesn't live in a world that's not realistic, okay? We see things as we are, or as they are. We see them for what they are. We also don't make things worse, okay? We just live in the world of reality. And so what I want you to do is I want you to sit down and pull out all of your metrics. I want you to pull out all of your P&Ls, all of the details from your bookkeeper, anything that you have, reports that you run, everything that applies to the performance of your business. And my challenge to you is to sit down and I want you to look at how you're performing. Now, here's the thing. You must actually have all of those things in order to sit down and assess them. And the reality of it is that sometimes as business leaders, we don't have all of those pieces for a multitude of reasons. But the most common reasons that I find when I'm working with clients is fear. That's the most common reason. We shy away from creating targets, be that financially or customer centric, or just from a business metric about leads or interactions or conversions or whatever it is. We do not set targets and we don't measure to them because we're afraid. We don't want to fail. And so if we don't set a target, we can't ever miss anything. And you will be able to go back and listen to some other episodes that I've done. This is something that I talk about regularly. Don't let fear drive your behavior. That's not going to help you win in your business. Now, we're all humans, and we all can become afraid, and we can all have fear. I get that. But the reality of it is, it doesn't matter how you feel. You have to push through. You're running a business. A business is an entity. Your feelings can't matter all of the time. You may not feel like getting up and going and running the business, but you must because you've committed your life to it. Now, if your passion's not there, I can have another episode on that a different day. We're not talking about the passion for the business. We're talking about overcoming your fear. We cannot allow our fear to drive our behavior in our business. We must move our business forward, which means we must create financial targets. We must create service targets. We must create KPIs. That's the reality of where we are. We must. If we're going to run successful businesses, those are the musts. Because just like if we go to the doctor and we have a checkup, right? They must run labs. They must listen to our heart. They must listen to our lungs. They must ask us certain questions. Why? Because they have to determine the health of our bodies. The financial targets, the KPIs, and the customer service metrics, those determine the health of your business. And if you want to have a healthy business, which I'm assuming all of us do, then you've got to be able to have metrics in order to understand the health of your business. Is it healthy? Is it not? Okay? Let me give you another analogy. When you get in the car, do you just jump in the car and you just start driving around aimlessly? Of course not. I mean, you may go on a Saturday or a Sunday drive. You know, when I was growing up, I used to do that all the time with my parents. We would go for a ride on the Parkway. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, so you know what I'm talking about if you're familiar with Asheville. But never did we hop in the car and just say, well, let's just see where we land. We always had an intention of ending up somewhere. Now, we may take multiple different pathways to get there, but we always had a destination. There was a purpose. There was a reason for going and driving around that day. Okay? In your business, you must have a destination. You can't get into your business and drive around aimlessly and hope that you're going to land somewhere successful. That's just not how it works. You have to have a destination in mind. So, where do you want to be at the end of this year? What's your endpoint? What's your goal? What's your target? I like the word target better than goal. A goal is sort of, I would like to achieve this. A target is, that's where I'm going. Okay? So, we're going to talk targets. What's your target for the end of the year? And then within your year, what are the sub-targets that you must deliver to? As you sit down and look at your business and understand how you've delivered in the first half of the year, you have to keep your destination in mind, and then you look back and say, are all the things that I've done, are all the ways in which my business has performed, has it delivered to moving me closer to my end target? It's really that simple. It's not complex. People are afraid of numbers. You can't be afraid of numbers in the business. These are your numbers. You've created them. Be proud of them because they're better than zero, and then move them forward. Okay? But to be able to deliver your business where you want it to go, to be able to achieve what you're striving to achieve in your business, you must have targets. And you've got to have all of the targets, the financial, the customer service metrics, and the individual KPIs to move your business forward. Not only must you have targets, you need to sit down and assess them regularly. I'm talking about at least once a month in order to move your business forward. So, your challenge today is a couple of things. Number one, if you don't have targets created because you are afraid to miss them, you must create targets. I would rather miss them and be striving to achieve and miss than to never have any targets and not know what you could have actually achieved or done. Don't live in that world. Strive, push, create your targets. Okay, so that's number one. Be very clear. You want to make them stretch goals. Don't make them so easy that it was pointless to create the target. Make a stretch. Push yourself. Your targets essentially represent how many customers you've served. And if your purpose is to serve, then celebrate that as you measure how your business is performing. Create the targets. Then number two, sit down and assess how you're performing to them. If you don't know how you're performing to them, you don't know if what you're doing is successful or not. And we always want to get better. How do you know how to get better if you don't know where you are? So simple. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. All I'm doing is empowering you to push your fear aside and jump into your business. So your challenge this week is I want you to spend 2 hours. If you need to develop your targets, do it. If you have them, then sit down and do an honest gut check. Remember, like I said in the beginning, business leaders and owners, we don't just create things and hope for the best, okay? That's number one. Number two, we don't see things better than they are or worse than they are. We see them for what they are. So sit down and see your business for what it is. and then sit down and figure out how you're going to take it to the next level, or how you're going to continue to replicate the amazing performance that you already have. Only you can make that decision as the owner, but you have to make it. So don't hide from that decision. Don't be afraid of it. Sit down and ask yourself, how am I doing? That's your challenge for this week. Go knock it out of the park. Let me know how you're doing. Shoot me a note. I'd love to hear from you. Go and be legendary.